Good morning, good afternoon, dear viewers, friends, and colleagues. Welcome to the channel Innovative Sustainability. Today, our guest is Gabriella Gerzon. She's joining us from Toronto, and she received her bachelor's degree in the University of York, followed by master's degree that she completed, and now she's in her PhD program, PhD candidate, and is completing it very soon. So today she would talk about her perspective of being at the academia, working in academic setting for many years, and transitioning into industry, especially that occurred during partially her master's and now during her PhD program. So please welcome Gabi. I call her that way because I know her 7 years. We work together. So Gabi, please, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, thank you, Marina. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to chat um, about some of the work that we're doing and my perspective. Not only through my degree, but hopefully and beyond. Let me pull up my slides. Okay,
Yes,
so
looks good.
welcome
Looks good.
everybody. Okay, perfect. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining today and for listening. Marina did an excellent introduction, but I'll expand. So my name is Gabriella. I'm going to be talking about today kind of the transition from industry, from academia, from I call it from the PhD perspective and beyond. Mainly because I had a little bit of a unique opportunity to blend the two together, which I'll get into a little bit. But I kind of wanted to give a overview of kind of the landscape, at least in Canada, of what kind of things are important when transitioning from academia and industry. I know a lot of people, including myself, when they graduate after their doctorate degree, a lot more people are going into industry, and breaking through is kind of a little bit difficult because the way industry industry science is done compared to academic science is quite different. So I find that a lot of my colleagues and peers, when we want to break into the industry after coming from academia, um, there's a lot of like unknowns of how to translate our science and what we've done from our training and our degree, and to be able to apply it in a way that's practical in a real world application, which would be in biopharma. So just a little bit of an overview and introduction. So, a little bit about the pharmaceutical industrial landscape, but a little bit of introduction about myself. Marina already alluded to this, but I did complete my master's degree in molecular biology from York, which was, of course, a very traditional academic based study, mechanistic functional study. And then I had the awesome opportunity to pursue my PhD also in biology, but actually looking at process analytical technology, method, and design for vaccine development, which was a joint collaboration between York University and Sanofi. It was kind of an applied project focusing on industrial applications, which basically blended academic studies and industrial studies through something's called the MyTax Accelerate program, which I'll touch on a little bit today, because in Canada it's a wonderful opportunity for people to get their feet wet in trying, to look at a project and work on a project through a scientific project through an industrial landscape. So my degree is actually through that program. So I've had the opportunity to work in industry now for more than 6 years, and so it's been an interesting journey, and I've learned quite a lot compared to my master's degree of the way science works in academia compared to industry. And I just wanted to give like a little bit of a landscape or a little bit of a context for what the pharmaceutical industry looks like in Canada. So when I say the science sector, it includes a lot of things. It includes biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and different types of advanced research institutions. So there's lots of different areas that comprise of industry, or what we'd call scientific industry. There's a couple of major hubs in Canada, Toronto, Montreal, smaller, in Vancouver, but there's opportunities, in many different cities. And they have not only universities, but also pharma companies. And there's a lot of collaboration between, government funding and these institutions in order to, work on developing, um, important science that, benefits Canadians and globally as a whole, so that, we can improve our global health. And so right now there's a lot of key growth drivers in industry, um, compared to academia, where science is of course more curiosity based. In industry it is kind of goal driven, right? So we have a lot of things, including personalized medicine, where we can improve patient outcomes, a lot of AI and drug discovery, in order to be able to increase our turnaround time, to be able to great get identify drugs and put them through a pipeline in order to be able to provide solutions for different types of diseases for patients. And sustainable pharmaceutical manufacturing drive and growth, and this is probably what I have more experience in based on the work that I've done. But different ways to accelerate our manufacturing pipelines to be able to get better quality, faster turnaround, better products, in a way that's able to drive development and increase output and quality for important drugs that are important for patient outcomes. So um, I think everybody knows that the emerging trend is really focused in digitization, being able to give precision diagnostics and a lot of data-driven solutions that help improve patient outcomes and innovation in industry. So of course, there's a lot of, impact on AI, on being able to leverage different types of technology to give better, faster, real-time data, turnaround time. All those kinds of things are super important. Um, and so that's kind of like the focus for a lot of places. Even when they're doing basic science as a technique or as a method, all of these things are still incorporated in that. So even when we're looking at classical drug design, these things are still important in those pipelines in order to be able to accelerate the development and output of those products. So a little bit like what I mentioned, in Canada, we have a program called MyTax, which focuses on bridging actually academia and industry. So maybe this is more relevant for people who are interested in expanding their training and education. But it's really cool because what it does is it connects academic research with real industrial applications. And it's basically meant as a way to bring the needs of both academic, like the strengths of both academic institutions and industrial institutions, to be able to do science that really helps facilitate what the current need is in industry, and to be able to help develop new types of technologies and methods and screening and all sorts of different things in order to basically use the power of academic research to accelerate industrial applications. And this obviously is super beneficial for facilitating career transitions, because it really helps people who participate gain industry relevant skills, be able to connect with leaders, be able to work in different types of industrial settings, and leverage networking, and be able to really see science through a different lens. So this program is interesting if anybody is interested to learn more about it. But it gives an opportunity to get a glimpse into what industrial applications for science can really look like, and how you can design studies there. So that's kind of the lens that I'm coming from. And I think a lot of times I label the slide skills needed in industry and pharma, technical, soft, and emerging, because I think a lot of times when you look at job descriptions for jobs that are out there in pharma and biopharmaceuticals, you might see a lot of things that you don't necessarily have experience in, but I think a lot of people really don't take into account all the soft skills that they gain from their academic training that can be applied in these different areas, and how that can actually be an asset in order to translate the research skills, the presenting skills, everything that you learn from your academic training into an industrial application. And so I outlined a couple of these, like, in industry, technical expertise is, of course, important. Things such as regulatory compliance, good manufacturing practices, being able to look at quality assurance, data analysis, and automation is super important. Um, and a lot of those things are things that, you learn on the go. Those are things that you can be trained in, so you can apply the data analysis, the good lab practices that you use in an academic setting, and then be able to then apply those in a way that is compliant for more stringent regulatory requirements in if you're working in GMP facilities. um, and so things such as soft skills, such as collaboration, project management, communication, being able to problem solve in what are oftentimes faster paced settings in industry. There's multiple projects, multiple deliverables and deadlines, and things that are all important or all priorities. And those are things that a lot of people already get from their academic training. So you basically, when you're working on your thesis or your project, you are the manager of your own project. You design, you execute, you collaborate with others, you have to communicate those research findings. So a lot of that stuff is skills that are easily transferable from the training that you develop through school, that you can then apply into industry. And then being able to apply those for these new technological skills that are becoming more and more um, relevant and more important, such as looking at how to analyze data using AI, machine learning, all these digital platforms, data security. Obviously, if you have training in that in your academic career, that's an advantage. But it also is a good opportunity to develop these skills in your training, that you can then take those skills that you learn and apply them into an industrial setting where it really is application focused. And being able to continuously learn, I think that's something that um, is a given for any industry, in order to be able to keep up with new and evolving technologies, regulatory practices, and standards in the sector. You have to know how to find information, you have to know how to keep up with information, and be able to apply that information. And I think people coming from academia are obviously very good at that. You learn a lot about how to find data, how to understand data, how to use data, to be able to apply to your project. And this is another area where you can take those skills and be able to apply it into a setting where you'll use it for different types of projects. So you don't necessarily need to have all the information going in. You just need to have the skills that are then able to be transferred to different types of projects, because you train on something in academia which is very focused and very detailed, but when you move into industry, a lot of times there are a diverse set of projects, different types of products you might be working on, different types of techniques you might be using. So really being able to leverage um, these skills and then being able to apply them in a generic way to multiple different areas are very important in order to be successful when moving and being able to keep up with the fast-paced environment in an industrial setting. um, because oftentimes in academia, when things don't work, you can get stuck, and you keep trying and looking at different things, and those are really important, those skills that you develop through trial and error, to be able to figure out how to find information, how to be able to use things, and how to be able to troubleshoot. And that is easily transferable into pharma. I think that's an important skill. um, and so that kind of leads into what I'd like to touch on, or the most important part, I think, a lot of people want to know how to transition from academia into industry. Like, what are the challenges? What are the strategies? What's the mindset shift? And of course, this is my personal perspective based on my experience. But basically, you have to have a mindset shift. You're moving from a lot of curiosity driven research to business or application focused work, which means um, you have to be ready to prioritize certain projects. If things that are of interest to you are not prioritized, you have to be easily able to navigate and shift from one thing to another. So I think a lot of flexibility is really important. Being able to navigate regulatory frameworks. So when developing methods, when looking at new techniques, you're always looking at something from an area of how can this be applied or how can this be used, and what is the potential application for this that would benefit either the industry or patient outcomes or process development or sustainability. So you have to be able to understand regulations, intellectual property, how data is used and commercialized, in order to use an idea from its development point into its application. And then effective transition strategy. So my tax was an example of one of them, but networking, internships, professional development. I think that in academic training, there's a lot of opportunities to be able to work on your science communication, being able to network and meet people in different areas and different industries, um, and being able to kind of figure out what's most important, for the role that you're interested in doing. So being able to leverage your communication and scientific communication skills to go beyond explaining just, what your project is or what the outcomes were, but being really able to communicate how it is important or how it can be applied to something or how it can drive innovation is kind of an important skill. And when you network with people, you kind of have to be able to use that kind of communication to apply to a lot of different areas. And I think that's an important skill, more than just being able to communicate scientific information. Um, and basically being able to take that and build it as a transferable skill. So that project management, communication skills, how can you deliver messages about impactful contributions, all of those things are important. Um, in my experience, I have had the opportunity now to see both sides of the coin, being able to have the academic experience and also the industrial experience, and it really makes me view science from a very holistic perspective, and how you design experiments, how you develop projects, how you um, work on sustainability and method innovation, being able to use all these different things and being able to be adaptable is really something that drives success in industry. And I'd encourage anybody who's interested in moving into industry to not be shy to reach out, to network, with people that are in roles that are of interest to you, and having these things in mind, being able to communicate the impact of what you do and how that can be translated into something that might be, applicable for real world solutions, is an amazing skill that is important for lots of different areas, um, in science and beyond. Um, and with that, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for tuning in, and I'll hand it back to Marina.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gabriella. It's really important to have feedback. Maybe we can go to the first slide or where you talk. Yes,
Mhm.
about the skills. Yeah, maybe this one exactly.
Yeah.
So that's perfect. I think one of the questions is, what do you see or have seen for yourself as the main challenge, maybe when you came to work in industrial setting, for the adaptation or maybe for comprehension where you are and what's the purpose and what you need to do? Like in your if you recall, what was the most I don't know challenging perhaps aspect to adapt yourself?
I think sometimes something that I found challenging is in an academic setting when you hit a roadblock on something, you kind of pivot in many different directions, as many as you can, and you'll spend a lot of time to try and develop solutions um, in order to be able to answer a question or answer a problem. And I think in an application-based setting, such like in industry, you sometimes are focused on solutions, but I think one of the things that is also really important is how realistic and how sustainable those solutions are. So I think sometimes when you become really invested in something, you are interested in being able to find whatever angle or whatever solution you can try. You're willing to spend a lot of time and pivot, but sometimes you have to be able to prioritize what's actually important, what will really drive impact and innovation, what aligns with business needs. And so a lot of times there are things that are super interesting to pursue, but it's not always beneficial. And I think being able to connect and differentiate when something is really beneficial
Mm.
and what you're working on really promotes sustainability, innovation, something that really drives something not just novel but something useful in application. That's kind of the difference in mindset where it's not always about the newest or most innovative technique that doesn't exist. It's kind of being able to apply something in a new way that is beneficial. Um, and I'm sure there's a bit of both involved in that, but yeah, you definitely don't have the same type of flexibility. You know, your priorities and your deliverables of what is important is really dependent on what those key growth drivers are. So that's probably a difference that I've experienced.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think you mentioned a lot about the the transition and what kind of skills. What would you say in yourself? Like, I guess it depends on the person. Each person proceeds it differently and feels differently and adapts differently. But at the end, we have teamwork and it's quite successful. But in a sense, like what you see in yourself that helps you to adapt and be successful in industrial environment and still carry on with your degree pursuit. If you could share those, I think we still
Sure.
have 10 minutes, so we can use at least
I
five
think
of them.
yeah. I think which I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think the willingness to adapt and learn. So I think that's something that I use in my training in both areas, but I think when you are able to be open to learning new techniques, to being able to do different things in a different way, um, being able to learn from others, I think because a lot of times in academia, when you're working on a project, you're the driver of the project in all areas. So you kind of manage the project by yourself. But um, you know, in industry, when you're working in pharma or you're working in startups, um, there's sometimes a lot more um, defined roles or a lot more collaboration between different people. And so being able to bring your expertise and being able to take knowledge and being able to merge it and apply it together and really focus on collaboration is something that's like super important. And I think that's probably one of those things that I've really taken away from my experience in industry is you have so many talented people that you work with that have expertise in so many different areas, and everybody brings something different and something new to the table. And so when you focus on a project through collaborative efforts, through a holistic lens, through looking at like multiple people's perspectives and being able to know how to work together and put it together, you actually end up developing more better things. You reduce overlap. Like there's so many benefits to really taking in lots of different people's experience. So I think the ability to really learn how to collaborate, and not just, collaborate in the sense of like handing off work, but really being able to synergize and work with people. That's something that has been super, super important for me.
I think you touched very right thing. It's a working together, and working together is a skill that doesn't happen instantly. It happens with time, with kind of assessment, with what they call forming, storming, and performing. Right when we're talking about teams, so it may happen slowly, may happen like quicker, depends on exposure, but nevertheless, it's the key factor. Then the people working together achieve more and they can succeed because they're going same direction and in most collaborative, most cooperative way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree with you, especially that like everybody's working towards a common goal. So when everybody has the same, the same end goal, and they're working together on it, you end up accomplishing so much more. It's really great.
I think at this point I would maybe stop and just kind of wrap up our conversation. But before that happens, I think for the viewers, why we're looking into the individual people's journey and their perspective, just like Gabriella was alluding to today. It's because sustainability starts with us. We had a few videos with Dr. Kiyasi who said that, how we eat and it basically the metabolism, the flora and gastrointestinal tract is important to sustain ourselves healthy so we can last longer and we can have more beneficial and productive life. So here we're talking about maybe more shifting focus to the mental aspects, how to adapt to different settings so that, the person who is just joining, the industry or, starting the career, or maybe people who are at the crossroads and changing their career, can have this as examples for them to maybe put their minds together or to have reassessment of what they do and this kind of conversations to help them with their journey with finding next steps and next pursuits in their career path. And so with that, Gabriela, thank you so much for joining today, for your time. I know it took you some effort to prepare it because it's not traditional talking about your research, although I know the next video we will have at some point when you will be talking about your studies and how relevant it is to the sustainability from the perspective of the real-time sensors. But right now, thank you for taking time to prepare this. I think it's very important, and I know many viewers can benefit from that. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
To the viewers, bye for now. Stay tuned. We'll have more videos on this topic and also going back to the examples of research of the studies that pertaining to their sustainability from process efficiency standpoint. Okay, thank you very much. Stay tuned. Bye for now. Happy holidays.